What if you never had to die? What if aging was just another disease, one that science finally figured out how to cure? Would living forever be humanity's greatest triumph or its worst nightmare? And what would happen to a planet that never loses any of its people? This is What If. And here's what would happen if immortality were possible. Death has been humanity's only guaranteed appointment since the very beginning. Every civilization, every religion, every philosophy has been shaped around one simple truth, that life ends. But what if it didn't have to? Right now, scientists aren't just dreaming about immortality. They're actively working toward it. And some of them believe we're closer than you think. Your body ages because your cells age. Every time a cell divides, the tiny protective caps at the ends of your DNA, called telomeres, get a little shorter. Think of them like the plastic tips on a shoelace. Once they wear down, the shoelace starts to fray. Once your telomeres run out, your cells stop dividing properly. They malfunction. They die. And so eventually, do you. But what if we could stop that process? Researchers have already identified an enzyme called telomerase that can rebuild those protective caps. In lab experiments, scientists have successfully reversed aging in mice. Some jellyfish species, like the Torotopsis dohrnii, can actually revert back to their juvenile state when threatened, potentially living forever in the wild. Nature has already solved immortality at least once. The question is whether we can steal that solution. Let's say we do. A pill, a gene therapy, a nanotechnology treatment. It doesn't matter how. One day, humanity cracks the code and aging stops. At first, the world celebrates. No more losing parents. No more watching loved ones fade away. No more racing against the clock. It sounds like paradise. But paradise has a population problem. Right now, about 150,000 people die every single day. Remove death from the equation, and the Earth's population doesn't just grow, it explodes. Within a century, we'd be looking at tens of billions of people sharing a planet that's already struggling to feed 8 billion. Food, water, land, energy. Every resource we take for granted would become a battleground. Cities would sprawl endlessly. Forests would disappear. Oceans would be drained. The environmental consequences alone could make the planet uninhabitable long before any asteroid or supervolcano ever could. So who gets to be immortal? That's where things get truly complicated. If immortality comes in the form of a treatment, it will cost money. A lot of money. At least in the beginning. The wealthy would live forever, while the poor continued to die on schedule. Imagine a world where billionaires have been accumulating power, influence, and wealth for 500 years. Democracy, already fragile, would collapse under the weight of leaders who never leave office. Social nobility would become a fantasy. The gap between the immortal elite and the mortal poor would make today's inequality look like a minor inconvenience. And what about the human mind? Our brains were not designed for eternity. Psychologists warn that after a few centuries of living, the human psyche would begin to break down. Every relationship you form would eventually become a source of pain, because even if you live forever, the people around you might not choose to. Boredom would reach levels we can't even imagine today. Every book read, every place visited, every experience exhausted. Some philosophers argue that meaning itself comes from mortality, that we cherish things precisely because they don't last. Take away the deadline, and you take away the urgency. Take away the urgency and life loses its flavor. There's also the question of progress. History moves forward, partly because old ideas die with the people who hold them. Immortal leaders, immortal scientists, immortal philosophers, would they open their minds to new ways of thinking? Or would the world calcify into an eternal present, frozen under the weight of people who remember how things used to be and refuse to let them change? Some researchers propose a middle ground. Not true immortality, but radical life extension. Imagine living to 500, healthy and sharp the entire time, but still ultimately mortal. You'd have centuries to master multiple careers, learn dozens of languages, travel every corner of the solar system. The wisdom accumulated over 5 centuries of lived experience would be extraordinary. Maybe that's the version of immortality worth pursuing. Long enough to truly understand the universe, but not so long that you forget what it means to be human. Here's the most unsettling thought of all. We assume immortality would feel like winning, but evolution built us for a finite life. Every emotion, every instinct, every drive we have was calibrated for a lifespan of decades, not millennia. We have no idea what we would become after 1,000 years, whether we'd still be recognizably human, whether we'd even want to be. Maybe death isn't the enemy we always assumed it was. Maybe it's the pressure that forged everything beautiful about us. Our art, our love, our desperate need to leave something behind. Remove that pressure, and you might not get immortal humans at all. You might get something else entirely. Something we don't yet have a name for. The clock is ticking. For now, just subscribe for another What If?